Welcome to Everyday Martial Artist, a weekly podcast where you'll join me, Brian Doucette, as I interview a different martial artist each episode and hear their story. Some guests you may have heard of, and some you probably haven't. Be sure to subscribe where all your favorite podcasts are available. Also visit our website at everydaymartialartist.com. If you're listening for a specific interview, I sure hope you'll stay and check out the other episodes. A very special thank you to Topher Williams for our custom theme music. And now, the newest episode of Everyday Martial Artist. Everyday Martial Artist is brought to you by KOOnline.com for all your martial arts needs. Sparring and safety gear, rank belts, uniforms, weapons, patches, and more. Wholesale supplies made by martial artists for martial artists. Visit us today at ko-online.com. Hello and welcome to Everyday Martial Artist. I'm your host, Brian Doucette, and as we do every week, we're joined by a brand new martial artist talking about their journey through the world of martial arts and everything they're involved in. My guest today is an author, public speaker, podcaster. He founded Karate International Durham in 1980. He's promoted over 400 students to black belt, was one of the first martial arts instructors to integrate martial arts into sports with UNC football in the mid-'80s. He's been recognized by organizations throughout the country for his contribution to martial arts. Please welcome my guest today, Mr. Jessie Bowen. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. We got our first. Up in Minnesota. We got our first snow today, so I'm a little depressed about that.
Wow, I'm in North Carolina, and it's really a nice day.
Yeah, it's I think 31 or 32 degrees and kind of crappy outside right now. So I'm not looking forward to going outside later, but you know that's what I get for living in the Midwest. So what we do with all of our guests, I want to go back to the beginning. I want to know where it all started. Where was that first spark, that first interest? You know, what got you first involved in martial arts?
Wow. Well, you know, it's still fresh in my mind. I grew up as an only child, and I never could defend myself. I was picked on. Today they call it bullying. Back in my day, it was called being a coward. You know, for me in my era, the word bullying is something new.
Yep.
Back in my day, if you didn't fight back, you were just called a coward, and people picking on you was okay. You know, you're supposed to fight. And I wasn't a fighter. And at the age of 21, there was a guy on my job. I was a general machinist for Rockwell International. And the guy on my job, we didn't get along. And he was studying something called Taekwondo. And I didn't have any idea what that was. But I did go to see the movie Enter the Dragon. And I saw what Bruce Lee did to those guys. And the first thing that popped in my mind was this guy throwing me around the room, beating me up. And I could just feel the pain in my imagination of what was going to happen. So next morning, I called every school in the city. And fortunately for me, Karate International was the school that answered the telephone. And that's how I got started. You know, my motivation for sport karate and desire to become a champion was started that very first day. I'd never seen a karate magazine, and I'm walking out of the door of a convenience store, and the word karate catches my eye. And I go over to the magazine rack and I pull it out, and it's Karate Illustrated. And there's a picture on the inside cover of Chuck Norris holding this huge trophy cup. I knew at that very moment, I wanted to be like Chuck Norris. I wanted to have a trophy cup. I'd never won anything in my life. I never played any sports. Last kid to get picked on anybody's team. So that's the way it really got started, was just trying to make sure I didn't get beat up too badly. And it was one of the greatest moments, changes in my life, was that very moment of beginning my study into the martial arts.
So what do you remember about maybe like your first one or two classes? What kind of stood out and what made you want to stick with it, you know, with that specific school and style?
Well, first thing was ignorance, that you didn't know anything at all about the martial arts. I'm coming into the martial arts still in this era that, you know, that you had to be tested before you would the teacher would accept you. And I remember going into the office and my instructor was Jerry Suter. And I've taken the class. I just want to learn something that I don't get beat up. And he says, let me show you karate. He stood me about probably 6 inches off the wall, put his fist to my chest and gave a loud ki and almost shoved me through the wall. I'm going, I just want to study karate. I mean, I thought I was getting beat up in the office. And he said, sit down and sign up then. I'm going, okay. So that was my first encounter. And I truly believe that God has a purpose in everyone's life. And it was my purpose at that time, that moment, to be directed to the martial arts. And, as I look back, almost 50 years ago, and I still believe that everything I do is because I'm working on fulfilling that purpose to have an impact on the martial arts, because I realize how much of a powerful tool it is for helping someone to discover themselves and make positive changes in their lives with the right teacher.
Nice. Yeah. And you mentioned that with the right teacher. It's so important to find that. So you obviously got lucky and found that right teacher. And now you also mentioned competition. So what was it that you mentioned you had never done anything before? You saw the trophy with Chuck Norris. Do you remember your first tournament you entered and kind of what was that like? What that experience was like? I remember
the first year.
Oh, wow.
I lost every event.
Really?
At least once to twice a month, we were going to a tournament. And I remember we used to have testing in tournaments. Karate International was one of the largest organizations in North Carolina. And, schools in Charlotte, Greensboro, Winston-Salem, and Raleigh, and everybody came together to test and to do tournaments. And that first year, I lost every event. My teacher started teaching me about meditation and visualization, seeing myself winning, all of that stuff. But, that still really wasn't working for me. And I was during a test, I failed my green belt test. No, I'm sorry, my purple belt test. And I started teaching martial arts when I was a green belt under our master instructor. And I thought the guys were, angry with me. They didn't like me. And I was quitting. That was it. I was quitting karate. And I went outside to my 1976 Monte Carlo and I threw all my stuff in the trunk to never, ever come back to karate class again. And one of the people I was teaching, her name was Emma Mitchell, and her and a couple other people followed me out to my car. And I remember her saying, okay, so what if we fail our test? Should we quit? And I turned and I looked at her and I said, no. I grab my stuff out of the car and I go back in, I get suited up for fighting, and I win my first place trophy.
Wow.
I'm 22 years old sleeping with my trophy, but no, I didn't. I wasn't successful. I wasn't I'm not going to say I wasn't a good student. My teacher always believed in me and always supported me. But I failed at everything I ever attempted in my life until that day. And, 2,000 trophies, 2 world titles later and all this other stuff. And, but it transferred it into all parts of my life. Mm-hmm. So, it was, and I understood winning. I understood the mental game. I understood it. I was able to teach it. I was able to do it. And, that was a big change in my life that day of failing my purple belt test. And I tell people now that just because you fail, it might be your opportunity of greatness.
So what do you think, so many other people, if you've heard stories like that, they'll enter 4, 5, 6 tournaments and not win, they'll give up. So what was it that, other than that one moment when you finally won, but up until then, what made you keep wanting to go through that competition, realizing I haven't won yet. I've never won. What was it inside you that kind of drove you to keep putting yourself through that and going through that competition?
Well, it was also about the expectation of my teacher.
Okay.
He expected me to show up. My first event I ever went to, this was right before our senior master instructor took over the Raleigh, North Carolina school. And I remember I took a group of guys from my job because I wanted them to see me in my uniform to know that I am somebody now. I'm a karate guy and I'm wearing my blue belt and my uniform's all pressed out and everything. And I'm just there to sort of show these guys I know karate now, because there's this huge group of people there and they all know karate. And one of my instructors yelled across the room, "Hey, Jessie, are you going to fight?" And I yell back, "No." And as the word "no" comes out of my mouth, our senior master instructor is passing in front of me. It's like I'm yelling in his ear. And he stops right in front of me. That was our first meeting.
Oh, wow.
I feared this guy because I'd already heard he was like Godzilla or somebody. And he's standing in front of me. He says, "Where are you from?" I said, "Raleigh." He says, "Pay your money and fight." I'm going, okay.
Nice.
So that's how I really got started in my very first tournament, was that of his expectation of, pay your money and fight. I wasn't about to tell him no.
Nice.
And then he became my instructor, and he was also like my dad. He was the first person to tell me that I had potential, I could be, and just from those words of encouragement inspired me to want to impress him every day of my life, for that past, almost 47, 48 years.
Wow. So now you mentioned you started teaching as a green belt. Was that something you seeked out, you wanted to teach, or was that something that was kind of thrown upon you?
Well, I was initially, in the morning classes, I was pretty much the only student in there. A couple other people were there. And I knew as much as the brown belts when I was a green belt.
Okay.
And my job had switched from an evening to I became on day shift. So my instructor says, "Well, I want you to help me in class. I'm going to give you $25 a week." So I became a paid instructor at Greenbelt.
Nice.
And it wasn't the money. It was really the opportunity. You have to go back. This is 1975. $25 is still a lot of money. And it was that opportunity and and I go back to his expectation. Whatever he told me to do, I would do it, and because I always trusted his decision, and I think that's what the martial arts, that relationship you want to build with your students, is a place that they trust their teacher, and you should be a good leader to make sure that you lead the student to that place that will impact their lives.
So when did the idea come to open your own school?
Well, I never wanted to open my school. I was teaching, and I'm single, and I'm competing, I'm winning. So, after that first tournament, I couldn't lose anymore. I became the top competitor in our organization, one of the top competitors in North Carolina. As a brown belt, we had to compete against even in the black belt. So I'm having a blast. I'm winning those trophies I never, had in my life, those awards, the recognition. And after a tournament, my instructor, he used to host tournaments in the mall. And after the mall would sponsor it, and after a huge tournament, he says, "Jessie, I want you to go to dinner with me. Come to dinner with me tonight." And I said, "Yes, sir." So we're eating, we finish eating. He's counting the money, from the event, and he's counting out 2 stacks of money. And he shoves the larger stack of money to me. He says, "Now next week you go to Durhamin and you open up your school." I'm going like, and I guess it was maybe $3,000 or something like that. And I never seen that much money in one place in my life. And I'm going, and I wasn't about to tell him no. I mean, because that's the type of relationship, he had expectations. I fulfilled the expectations. And so that's how I opened up my first school. Durham is about 30 miles from Raleigh. And I found a building and I opened the school. He actually ran the school during the day, and I taught the evening classes. And I would say within 30 to 45 days, my school was a success.
Wow. And,
I drove on the parking lot of Rockwell International with my Corvette and put my toolbox in the back of my car and rode off into the sunset. And everyone was saying, "You'll be back." That was 40 plus years ago.
Wow. That's actually really cool. I know that's something a lot of people get into it with, wanting to do it and never do. And you got in having no interest in doing it and ended up running a very successful school. So you just never know what the plan is for you.
Well, the key part that made my entry into the martial arts business. I started teaching and owning my school as a business. And that's my instructor. As I said, it was a franchise organization. And, so he gave me a franchise because of my loyalty to him as a student and his belief in me. He had started his own college, a martial arts college, where you had to have at least an associate degree in business management before they would sell you a franchise. So that I had already been completely through their program. But I started into the martial arts as a business, not because of I want to teach someone. I started because I wanted to run a business. And my motivation for that was that, I'm working and making probably $6-7 an hour. And our Raleigh school had a month of revenue of over $10,000. Do the math on that.
Yeah, wow.
So I'm going, okay. So getting into the martial arts business and running a business and starting to be financially successful as a school owner, that was my drive, and always about continue to educate myself to become a better leader and a better business person.
Okay, wonderful. Now, you started teaching you said around 1975. What do you think has changed about your teaching style over the years?
I would say knowledge and compassion. Knowledge meaning that I didn't just study karate. My background is judo and aikido, and mindfulness meditation, dynamic meditation. So I'm a meditation coach. I'm a certified sports hypnosis coach. So I began to get into the mental aspects of what made me.
Okay.
Me as in Jessie, that person. And I had turned to success in my competition. I used that mental visualization of expectation to be successful in my business. So it was the mindset that I knew the technique, but I really understood how I work, how the mind works. How do you achieve success? How do you mentally visualize success? And how do you trust your intuition when it comes to success and when it comes to life?
So what led to the teaming up with UNC football in the 80s, and kind of how did that whole thing start, and talk about that experience a little bit?
Well, I was already at Duke. I started teaching at Duke University. I started their martial arts program in 78. And I was already at Duke. And Jeff Madden, who was the strength and conditioning coach, my martial arts school was fairly close to his home. So he enrolled his boys into my martial arts program. And he saw all the things that I was doing, all the mental stuff I was doing, the demand for respect, the expectations of excellence in technique. And so he invited me to come over and teach the guys a few things about martial arts. Well, I went over and I taught them about, hand movements, the projection, power of ki. And I taught them about the mental part of seeing themselves succeeding. So they went on to win, a championship. And so it was just, they looked at it and says, well, these are all of the ingredients that helped us to be able to win a championship. So let's keep all this together. So I was with them for 5 seasons. And then when Mac Brown, when they left Torbush, I was with him for about another 2 seasons, introducing martial arts principles into football. But, we worked with basketball. I'm a professional bowler. So bowling was one of the things I taught at Duke. And I turned pro in 2002 on the PBA tour. I won 40 amateur titles before turning pro. And I have a book out and audio program. It's called Zen Bowling.
Oh, wow.
This is Psychology of Better Bowling. So, we have basketball CDs out. We have golfing CDs out. We have martial arts CDs out. We have a whole line of just visualization and mindfulness training products.
So did any of the athletes you worked with through these programs end up sticking with martial arts and continuing to train in martial arts exclusively after, their college sports were done and stuff?
I'm not really sure. I don't know of any that,
Okay.
These guys, Brian Simmons and a lot of the guys were at Carolina, they went on and, did other things. I have no idea whether they actually stuck with it or not.
Okay. It would be interesting to find out. I mean, because, you hear the story of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar when he started doing that type of stuff with Bruce Lee and stuck with it. And you're just curious. I know every now and then you hear about some type of athlete who does martial arts and you kind of wonder where it started. So. Right.
I've had the blessed opportunity to work with a lot of athletes, but I don't know if any of them had continued. Now, when we think about the martial arts, we have the physical side, but I'm hoping that the attributes of my training program, those things are still there with them.
Okay. So you mentioned the books you've written. So when did that start? When did you first have the idea to write a book? And I know definitely your who's who in martial arts are obviously some of your most popular ones, but just kind of talk about when you first had the idea, or did someone else approach you with an idea to start writing books?
Well, my first book was in the early, about the mid 80s, and digital cameras were coming out, and we created our first training manual for my students. And, we got a commercial printer, and we just, we had the software. We put our own book together, and that book for even today hasn't changed. It's published on Amazon, but our basic manual was my first publication. And then when I started doing motivational speaking and when I started doing seminars, we started publishing books. Change Your Mind, Change Your Life Success Guide, The New You Self-Discovery System, Law of Attraction, Your Thoughts Determine Your Destiny. So when I started to do seminars, I started to create the books to give me credibility as an author, but also as a speaker. So my books were never intended. I didn't have the thought whether or not they would become a bestseller, but they were sort of like workbooks, and they were training books to support my seminars, and which was good because my 2-day seminars were about $500 a person to attend. And, we generally have anywhere from 20 to 30 people that would attend my seminar. So the book was a part of it, of the success of the program. But I really never thought about the book selling by itself. Mm-hmm. And I guess in 2015, I published a book, Who's Who in the Martial Arts Autobiography. And that was only to be given to my teacher. And I was already hosting tournaments, already hosting awards banquets. And so we did the awards banquet, and I had about 20 martial artists that I featured in the book, which my teacher knew, had a big dedication to his partner who had passed away. And that was just scheduled to be it. There wasn't another book planned beyond that. Mm-hmm. And my good friend, Grandmaster Joe Corley, he was at the event and says, hey, why don't we do this in Atlanta? And so we brought together a group of people that had not seen each other in years, and we published the second edition of the Who's Who in the Martial Arts biography book, and that has Cynthia Rothrock on the cover. And actually, next weekend I'm going to be doing something with Cynthia, which is going to be a Cynthia Rothrock Day. And Cynthia was on the cover of the first book. Oh, cool! And that book just exploded. We had people wanting to be a part of it, and here we are with 8 books later. Wow! Tomorrow we're releasing our first magazine. Okay. So we are now a full-blown publishing company. We're publishing for other people. Sifu Allen Goldberg, we're publishing his Action Hall of Honors history book. Willie Bam Johnson, we're promoting and publishing the first children's book, all to be released at Seafood's event coming up in January in New Jersey.
Okay, very cool. You'll have to say hi to Cynthia for me. I'm actually gonna been trying to schedule an interview with her. We've been, she's been very busy traveling a lot.
Oh yeah,
but I'll be hopefully interviewing her soon on the show. So looking forward to that one.
I'll send you a link. We have another partnership magazine, and we just featured her on the cover of that particular magazine. So I'll send you a link, the digital link, so you can check it out. You can give you a chance to see, some of the things that we're doing with the digital magazines.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Talk a little bit about the American Martial Arts Alliance Foundation that you started, the nonprofit.
Okay, well, I was already, so one of the other duties I had under my teacher, I was the regional director for the American Martial Arts Association. And I was that for probably about 15 years. And, I decided that, okay, it's good, but the organization is growing and people in the organization are having different, they have different thoughts and what they want to do. And some of them were not meeting with what I wanted to do. But the real big decision was that I had an opportunity to travel to Hawaii. I got a letter stating that I could try out for the U.S. national team. And I was under the assumption, this was back in 2001, I was under the assumption that this organization was affiliated with the Olympic Committee.
Okay.
And the letter goes on and, that I had a chance to go to Hawaii and try out. And if I was one of the top 4 winners, then I would be going to Greece and representing the U.S. And, so I bought into it and I called the person and says, yes, all this is true. And I'm going, okay. So I was an 8th degree black belt. And I said, okay, I dropped in 30 days, I dropped 20 pounds. I got in the best shape of my life. And I took myself and one of my students that was going to be my coach. And we go to Hawaii. And we get to Hawaii, and I found out that this is just a ripoff. It's a scam. This person's not affiliated or anything. But anyway, I won the forms competition, the weapons, the open hand, finished 4th place in the fighting. And I was just so frustrated from that. And I didn't realize until I got back, I actually get a letter from one of the organization that was a part of the Olympic Committee. And they're telling me that, okay, you didn't qualify. You'll have to join our organization to qualify. And I just got very angry. And I decided I would start my own organization, an organization that doesn't have politics going on. It has a set of rules, and everybody, including myself, we follow the rules. And, so that's where we got started. And I started by hosting the Who's Who. It was the American Martial Arts Hall of Fame, the AMA Hall of Fame. And I did that for, probably about 7 or 8 years, started my own karate league. We had our teams and all of that stuff. And I hosted the Durham Karate Open Championship for 40 events. I created the AMA Nationals that ran for about 16 events. And, that's sort of where we got started. And then I got involved in the books, and I just let the sport karate part of it go. And we're really hoping to get that started back up again. But that was it. I got started because, I got ripped off. I was lied to, and I lost the trust in that organization and really trusting anyone else. So I decided to start my own organization.
Oh, hey, sometimes you just got to do it that way. And I like that you mentioned, without the politics, because I think pretty much any time politics gets involved in martial arts, it ruins it.
Well, that's the reason why with the American Martial Arts Alliance, so there are 2 parts. There's the foundation and there's the institute. The foundation, our objective is to support the martial arts in education. So I have online courses that people can go to learn about business management, about personal development training. And, our goal is to support individuals that are members of our organization, to provide scholarships, to provide financial support if they are going through our educational programs. We're really looking forward to starting our Christian martial arts program And that program is to be able to support kids that may not have an opportunity or resource to study the martial arts. Then we're going to provide them their uniforms. We're going to provide them their sparring equipment, everything that they need to be successful in the martial arts. So we're looking for those teachers that will actually fit in that mold of helping people in the 21st century to become successful martial arts students, not only in the martial arts, but in life itself.
That's great. I love that. It's a great mission, great philosophy to have. And I'm thank you for doing that. That's cool. Let's say someone approaches you, they've never met you before, but they heard you do martial arts and they're like, I'm thinking of getting involved in martial arts. What type of tips would you give them? What to look for, what to avoid?
Well, the very first thing is what I said in the beginning. I was fortunate because I found a very good teacher. Well, what you have to do is to understand, why do you want your child, or why do you want to study the martial arts? That's number one, because it becomes about you. The second thing, when you now look for a teacher, is finding someone that will offer you your basic interest for wanting to get involved in the martial arts. You want to be able to go and take a class. Most schools offer a 3-lesson introductory program. Then you go and you take an introductory class. And if it feels right, then that's possibility is right. Check out the instructor. In the 21st century, go online, make sure he's not a sex offender or doesn't have a criminal record. Now, I know people that have been in trouble and have done things, and they have moved on, they've learned, and they have built a whole foundation of success from that bad experience. But I'm talking about, people are also predators. Mm-hmm. So you want to know about that martial arts instructor. And if you'll just ask the people in his school, majority of times you'll find out a lot about the instructor and what type of student are they attracting, what are their philosophies. So it doesn't matter about the style of martial arts. Mm-hmm. It really matters about the quality of the person. For myself, I would want to know that instructor is accomplished. And accomplished means that person is still growing in their art, not only about, getting ready for their next belt test. What else are they doing? I think that becoming a coach is a critical thing for martial artists that want to teach leadership. Then you take classes and you become a certified coach in some form of leadership. And you bring that information back to your students. And now you build a school that's not just based on martial artists. I think my success as a school owner was that I understood that I had to every day not just perform and satisfy my students' needs, but I also had to satisfy the needs of my parents. So I tried to have all of my classes that they could also be educational to parents and having the parents to be involved. So a school that brings the parents in and really not only teaches the kids, but that also supports the parents to learn, okay, this is what we're doing. We're teaching discipline, and this is how we work on to instill discipline when you walk through the door. In the past 15 years, texting and kids with phones, and they text all day and they lose their communication. I'm not knocking texting, right? But the communication. So when you come to the dojo, then communication is important. So my students walking in the door, they would have to say, hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. And right in front of everyone, because that takes a lot of confidence to do that. Even if I'm teaching my class, I would say, hello, sir. How are you doing today? I'm great, sir. That confidence in their voice. And before they come on the mat, they would scream out, yes, I can. And when they leave the mat, yes, I can. Nice. And they have their student creed. So the focus for our school was really building character in a person. So I would say that, looking to see, does that school help to build character in your child? If you're going in for self-defense, is that program set up to teach you self-defense? I mean, so and if you're uncertain, then go to several schools and take their introductory class. And if you're committed to studying the martial arts, out of that, make a selection of which school fits your need best.
Nice. That's great advice. So now you started in primarily traditional martial arts, and obviously you got into the competition part of it. So I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on MMA and the UFC and kind of how that's just exploded into the world of martial arts over the last 20 some years?
Well, I think that, the mixed martial arts, I think Bruce Lee was your first mixed martial artist.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, I have a lot of friends that studied mixed martial arts. I actually introduced mixed martial arts as a part of physical education at Duke.
Nice.
And it's the new generation because, we have a generation that may not want to have the discipline and structure that a karate program or let's say a taekwondo program may have. So I worked on, teaching everything I could possibly teach to my students that would help to make them better.
So now you've mentioned a lot of martial artists in our conversation. You've mentioned Bruce Lee and you've mentioned people like Pat Johnson and stuff. If you had to pick one martial artist to put at the top of your list for someone you just truly admire for what they've done in the world of martial arts and what they've accomplished, can you pick just one or maybe one or two?
Well, I would say that my heroes or people that I really do respect, and I respect all martial artists, but the people that have really empowered my life. I would say that speaking from here, I would say Joe, my teacher, of course, but Joe Corley, the Battle of Atlanta.
Nice.
The things that he did for sport karate through the Battle of Atlanta. He would have to be one of those people that I really, really super respect, and we generally talk about at least once a week. And I consider him as a mentor for my martial arts and also for the book. So he's been a big supporter and a big part of making, the book successful. I would go to Joe Louis. Okay. Joe Louis, because he's from Knightdale, North Carolina, and Knightdale is right outside of Raleigh. So when he was in town, he trained at our school. Okay. So he taught me a lot of things about fighting. And those things really helped me as a champion. I would say Bill Wallace, nice. Jeff Smith. All of those guys are out of my era. John Chung, John's another person that really inspired me as a competitor and also as a friend. And, Cynthia Rothrock. So, there's quite a few people that are at the top. And probably if you open up the pages of any of my books, you see the people that have inspired me. Mm-hmm. You pretty much see them on the front page, the first 15 pages of the book. Ernie Reyes, yes. Ron Van Cleef. And so, those, I'm in this great place that I get a chance to write about people that have inspired me. And as I said before, this past, we have a magazine coming out tomorrow, but this year we wrote we have a new series. So you have the Who's Who in the Martial Arts series, you have the Martial Arts Masters and Pioneers, and now we have the Martial Arts Changing Lives, and then we also have the Martial Arts Extraordinaire book. So those are the two books that we've written this year. And so now we are creating a magazine, which is the Martial Arts Extraordinaire. This magazine is designed to support the books and continue to support the education of who are these people in the martial arts that's actually built the foundation for martial arts of yesterday, today, and who are still inspiring the future of martial arts.
Nice. I'm looking forward to some of those new books. I'll have to check them out for sure. So I'm sure throughout your years in martial arts, you've learned lots of different philosophies and different sayings and stuff that you use. Is there one that stands out as a philosophy you've learned that you keep coming back to and use a lot yourself?
Not really from the philosophy. There I have affirmations.
Okay.
And and one of the affirmations that that I use is from the program that I studied my meditation under, which is called Silva Method, and that's SILVA, and which was going back into the 60s, was one of the first mind development type programs. And better, better, and better. As someone were to ask me, well, how you doing today, Jesse? Better, better, and better. That's all you're going to get. I don't do negative conversations. I don't do negative talk. So how you doing? Better, better, and better. No matter what's going on, better, better, and better.
Okay.
And I find myself sometimes, every day, and every day and every way I become better, better, and better. Every day and every way I become better, better, and better. So that is one of the affirmations that for the past 40 years that a day doesn't go by that I don't say that, so that's, but a lot of, I'm also a spiritual person. My wife, we have a church here in Greenville, North Carolina. It's called Greater Vision Christian Church. I just published my first Christian book back here in September. Okay. It's called God Gives Me Vision. So, there's a lot of things that I use to keep me in the track or in the path that I believe my life should follow for where I am now.
It's I like that. Better, better, better. I like that. It's really good. All right. So I have 3 more questions, kind of some fun ones to wrap it up. Now, this one, you can't pick one of your own, but do you have a favorite martial arts book?
Favorite martial arts book? Oh, wow. Cannot pick one of my own.
Yep.
Well, okay. Well, I have one that's called Black Belt Leadership 101, and that's by John Terry.
Oh, okay.
And, and I've just actually met John a few months ago and have a copy of his book. And it's really a great book. It's about leadership. So I would say that's the top of my books, of the books that I'm reading right now. And most of my books are, Think and Grow Rich type books, Brian Tracy type books, those types of things. But yeah, when I think of, I'm an old school. So, Jack Canfield, Norman Vincent Peale, those are kind of books that I try to look at. I do videos, I do audio, audible books. I constantly try to keep myself educated. I just finished a course on becoming a certified goals coach. Got another course, I'm a publisher, but I'm getting ready to take a course to become a certified publisher.
Okay.
So that, because I want to know everything about the business. And that's sort of what happens a lot is that whatever I'm doing, I don't do it, I study it. And because I want to know everything about it. If I'm going to invest my time and energy, I want to know every possible thing I can know about what I'm doing in that. But, I do more audible books.
Okay.
Because it's the easiest thing for me to maximize my time.
Nice. No, that makes sense. All right. So favorite martial arts TV show?
Oh, wow. TV show. I would have had Kung Fu.
Nice. That's a good one.
The David Carradine.
Yep.
I guess that'll have to be that series of shows and watching that. It used to be Black Belt Theater had all these different martial arts shows on. But now, if I had to go back and say, off the top of, if you ask that question, what pops into my mind first, I would probably have to say Kung Fu.
That's probably been about a third of my guests have given that answer, so it's definitely not a bad one to pick. So Nice. And then final question: do you have a favorite martial arts movie?
Oh yeah, I have the movie that I talk to people about that impacts their lives right now, and that is The Last Samurai.
Ah, yes.
I love The Last Samurai because, and the reason I like The Last Samurai, number one, it has a good storyline to it, but it also talks about traditional. And so many times we're connected with tradition, but we have to realize that we cannot stop progress. We cannot stop progress. So I think that movie was one of the best illustrations that you can't stop progress.
Right.
And you may be a traditional, but what you have to do, time moves on. Life is an evolution. It's forever changing. So you have to be able to adapt yourself to the changes in time. And I meet so many martial artists, I'm not going to get on that Zoom, but the pandemic has proven, then you're going to need to close your school.
Yep.
Well, I don't want to do it the way I've done it this way for I don't know how many. Hey, listen, that's old. That's the type of thing that's not going to be working.
No, I agree. I know so many people were just even against just video series for martial arts for so many years, and now they're fully embracing teaching through Zoom, which is essentially the same thing. I mean, obviously there's, with video, it's, like a VHS tape, you didn't have that feedback like you could get through Zoom, but still kind of just the evolving of it and how we teach.
Well, I used to feel that way about texting, when texting first started coming out, and I'm going, hey, I'm not going to be, somebody want to talk to me, pick up the telephone and call me. And we were at a meeting at Duke University, and it was the end of it. We get ready to break for Christmas. And my boss, it was about 25 people in the room. He says, how many of you text? And he had all these abbreviations up there for texting and, LOL and all this kind of stuff. And I'm going, and only maybe about a third of the room knew. And my boss, he just made a statement that really had an impact on me. He says, well, this is Duke University. And if your students are texting, then you need to be texting. I'm going, whoa, or else you need to find a new job. I'm going, whoa, that is serious. So nice. Guess what I started doing? I started learning how to text.
There you go.
But that's that progress. And that's what Duke said. If your students are texting, then you need to know how to text. What your students are doing and they're interacting, you need to be able to if they want to, Zoom is the only way for you to do classes, then you do classes because this is where your students are and this is what they're doing. Or, you probably should just shut your school down.
It's good. That's good. Great. It's kind of a good way to end it there. But I just want to thank you, sir, for doing this and being on the show. I truly appreciate it. Loved learning more about your story. And like I said, you can only learn so much from reading. It's always good to hear it, them talking about it themselves and explaining some things. And I love everything you've accomplished and you're still working on. And I'm definitely going to be ordering some more of your books that I didn't know about. And I copied the link for your bowling book. I have a friend whose son is a diehard bowler and wants to be a professional bowler. So I'm definitely going to
this end than it was in the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm about is really, I'm blessed with the opportunity to do things that I never even thought about doing, with Duke CE or Duke Corporate Education, they're rated as one of the top executive training firms in the world.
Wow.
I speak at Nike, Raytheon, Swiss Re, and all these places that I never actually believed or ever thought about that I would be able to do. And I've been, blessed with opportunities. And that's what I'm just trying to share with individuals through our books, that your life has value. Don't waste a perfectly good life.
That's great. Awesome. Well, I truly appreciate your time, and I will put links for all of your stuff on the show notes when the show comes out. And I once again, it's been an honor speaking to you, sir.
All right. Yeah. Just let me know. And, anytime that I can, do something to support you or whatever, I'll send you a link to the magazine. I'll send you a link to both of the magazines so you can take a look at, okay, so what is this magazine about? What are you guys doing?
Awesome.
Thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist. We hope you will join us every week for a brand new episode with a different martial artist telling their story. If you enjoy the show, be sure to leave us a review. Also, be sure to check out our website at everydaymartialartist.com. There you can find all of our episodes and contact us to suggest guests and ask questions. Again, thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist, and we'll see you next week.